am I doing things like getting my microphone ready and things that I could have done before I started hitting record? Well, because YouTube wants me to give you at least 30 seconds before I cuss. And in this topic, I'm gonna cuss a lot because, yeah, this is probably not the first time you have heard of BookBub. BookBub advertisements come with a ton of hype and a very, very hefty price tag. But the question remains is, are they worth it? The answer is pretty dramatic, not unlike myself, and very clear. But in order to make that point, I have to give you some background on my book and my marketing, or honestly, in a lot of ways, the lack thereof. I released Rise, my debut novel, back in 2018, and I subsequently did zero fucking marketing. I started seeking a couple blogger reviews. Don't do this. Please do not make this fucking mistake. This is perhaps one of the largest mistakes I ever made in my book publishing career, is not marketing, not doing anything, letting it sit there expecting, oh, well, Amazon will take care of it. Amazon has an algorithm that they'll figure it out. Yeah, no, don't do that. Market. And BookBub is part of that. We'll get into that here in a second. Those 2 years, all I did was I worked on my sequel. And there's a couple reasons for this, why I chose to work on my sequel instead of, putting a bunch of money into marketing. I think the main reason is actually going to be that I felt a little guilty because my first book ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. It's almost like it was my first book and I made some mistakes. So I felt like I owed it to my audience to have the sequel come out, even if I didn't really have an audience yet. I wanted it to be ready and waiting for them. And I'd also heard the marketing advice that the best way to advertise your first book is your second one. And I will say that focusing on writing that second book is probably something I would have done, continued to do, but it's not like it takes a shit ton to market. You could be figuring out marketing right now while you're watching this YouTube video. Just put me on in the background and start looking up some of the newsletters that are available. Look at the links down below and throw those up there on another screen. Or maybe I'm your second monitor. Am I your second monitor? I might be your second monitor. So like I was saying, I didn't really have an audience yet. I didn't know what I was doing. Like my audience was essentially some friends, some family, and maybe my cat. But I was at least out there. So fast forward from 2018 to 2020. And I had sold a grand total of 53 copies of Rise. Rise, the book that I had dumped over $1,000 into just for editing, had, at least when it came to sales, essentially been a catastrophic failure for me. I went ahead and published my second book expecting, okay, that's gonna do it. That's gonna be what's necessary. I now have 2 books to my name and we're good. I expected it to raise sales and it really didn't. It really did not much at all. Over the next 6 months following the release of Stand, I sold 22 more copies of Rise. So yeah, that's a faster pace. It's not exactly, it's still pretty shitty. At best, I'm looking at 90 copies over the next 2 years. It's almost 100% increase, but yeah. I may be able to pay off the editing by the time I'm 70. So I started marketing. I started marketing with newsletters like Book Barbarian and BookSends, FreeBooksy. I coupled it with new ventures on YouTube and Twitch, which I hoped would increase my visibility because that's kind of one of the problem. Now there's another problem to this, which I didn't really get into, but it's also the genre of my book. My book is a hard sell. It is a fantasy book with no magic, it is a historical fiction book with no historical figures, so it's essentially what would be Game of Thrones without the fucking dragons and muskets. All of this worked, kind of. And it culminated in the best month I'd ever had. In July of 2021, I ran a promotion both on Twitch and with newsletters, kind of just working it all together. I did things like 8 spicy beans and tried to make it fun to spend 99 cents on my book, while also getting more people to read the book, because ultimately that is the goal. is have people read and enjoy the book. And it kind of worked. It led to 35 sales in 1 month. 35 sales at that point was astronomical. To imagine that I could have pushed out 35 copies of my book, even if I had to probably digest that many tums as well, it was still just like, it blew me away. And I think that's when it kind of clicked that, yeah, marketing works. So even if those sales are still anemic, I was at least on the right path. And that's when I found out about Bookbub. Now, Bookbub is more than just the price tag. Bookbub also doesn't approve everyone that submits to get their ad on their newsletter. And that's for good reason, because everyone wants to get their ad on Bookbub. It is the largest newsletter by far, and it seems to have the highest rates. You're gonna pay several $100s to get on Bookbub compared to maybe $35 over with Book Barbarian, or maybe 100 with Robin Reads, but you're gonna get results. And that's what we're gonna talk about here. Now, I was initially a little bit intimidated to attempt to put out a Bookbub ad, because I had already heard that, you know, you need hundreds of reviews to get a Bookbub ad. You're gonna have traditional publish and self-publish all together. It's a big newsletter. And I had 17 reviews on my book. 17 reviews after 2 years. That's little sad, but it's higher now. I tried to work very diligently on getting more reviews, getting more books out there. I ran some free promotions. I ran more newsletter sales at 99 cents. I basically did all the things I could to get my book out there as much as possible, leading up to an attempt to get a Bookbub ad. I even submitted to book awards. I was a finalist in the Ozma Awards, and I was feeling a little bit good about my chances, because what do I have to lose? It's not like you pay to submit an application to Bookbub. So I submitted one. And at the time when I submitted this ad, I was exclusive with Amazon KDP, and I was subsequently denied. So back to the drawing board I went, and I continued to do the same things I had been doing before. I was submitting to the same series of newsletters every couple of months. I was giving out free books and discounted books, everything I possibly could to just keep that traction going on Rise. Trying to run promotions, trying to get reviews from people that I knew had read it, trying to get it to book bloggers when I could. And then in November 2021, I got a shot in the arm. I won Best New Fiction Author from Royal Dragonfly. And with that in hand, I was like, you know, let's do it. I carved out 30 days, the 30-day period you need to, of not having any of these promotions run, because your Bookbub wants it to actually be discounted. You know, if you're running promotions right up to Bookbub, there's no incentive for a customer to sign up for Bookbub over Book Barbarian. So this was roughly 6 months after my first attempt, and there was one major change. Yes, I had a couple more reviews. Yes, I got the award, but I don't think any of that had the biggest impact. I think one of the bigger impacts here was that when I submitted, at this point, I had gone wide. I was no longer exclusive to Amazon. I had used Draft to Digital, which I'll link down below, to get my book published with as many different outlets as possible. Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, basically just get that shit out there so that it's more available to more people on their newsletter, because Bookbub is not exclusive to Amazon. It's something to consider. In both cases, I applied the same way. I provided the same information for the most part, and I applied to both the international and the US markets. Now, keep in mind, you can get approved for one of these or both of these. I got approved for both. I was at work when I got approved, and I remember like freaking out immediately.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
Running down, going to call my wife and make sure, hey, are you okay with us spending this much fucking money? Because I think it's really important to my career as an author, and I think we should do it. And luckily she agreed. Wasn't sure what to expect. I knew what numbers they were said. I knew what I've read about how useful Bookbub is, but I didn't know what to expect. So going into the ad, I had sold a grand total of 196 copies of Rise. From publication in 2018 through May of 2022. Now in June of 2022, I ran the Bookbub ad. Now I did stack it with some of the other newsletters that I had already been using, like Book Barbarian, and I sold a grand total of 331 fucking copies in one damn month. Real honestly, less than a week. This was almost 300 more copies than my best month. It was an 842% increase in sales from the prior best month. Not only that, it more than doubled my total sales, where I was eating hot shit to get people to buy my book. I hit number 4 in the bestsellers list in my genre, just above Brandon Sanderson, who was full price, but we don't have to talk about that. And since the ad, I have also gained about 10 new reviews across various platforms and 18 followers on Bookbub. This also led to 13 full price sales of Stand over the same time period, and to date, Stand has only sold a total of 75 copies, so that's not an insignificant number. So, was it worth it? If you can afford it, the short answer is yes. I want to stress here that I did not make my money back on Bookbub. I know that's what a lot of things you will read. A lot of things that I read were talking about, oh, you'll make your money back. You'll certainly make your money back. And I think that's more about if you are very established and if it's very clear that your book is fitting the genre you're in. As previously stated, my book is a fantasy book without magic. It is Game of Thrones without dragons. That's a harder sell. So you may do better than I did. I may do better than you do. It really just depends. But one thing is very clear. Based off of the marketing that I had done and the immediate impact of Bookbub, it is very effective. And it has been more effective than all of the newsletters, all of the money I've spent on marketing. It is the biggest bang for the buck that I have had. And it's one that I think everyone should try if you can afford it. Going back again to that, you will probably not make back your money if your ad goes anything like mine. I think in total, I paid about $700 for the ad, and I think I made about $200. I hope for your sake, you do make your money back. I hope for your sake, you make more. And I hope for your sake, you have 1,000 sales. I hope it really works well. But just keep in mind that there is the possibility that your ad will end up like mine. Very successful, but not that successful. When they give you the average sales for when the ad runs, that's not just self-published, that's also established authors. So the numbers are a little bit skewed. And when you score the ad, that's not the end of it. I mean, I need to get started on working on my next Bookbub ad, because this sales chart is starting to look a little bit like a giant middle finger. Stack your ads with other newsletters, continue to push, get your book out there as many ways as you can. Continue to try different things, try small budgets, see how your ads work. You can actually do on your Bookbub, you can run paid ads through Bookbub that are not the same as your featured deal, and you can test out different little marketing materials, see what is resonating. You can find your ads by author. Be active on Bookbub, try and get your author profile out there. Go and get blog reviewers to take a look at your book. Just get started. Get your Bookbub profile ready. Get your author profile ready. And keep doing things. I've listed down below like some of my favorite newsletters, as well as some of my go-to websites that kind of explain why you should pick this newsletter or this newsletter, and why. And there's also like traditional advertising like Amazon and Twitter. Don't use Twitter. I fucking hate Twitter. Like, the advertising on Twitter has been bad for me. You can even use advertising on YouTube or through Google AdSense. So consider a couple different ways of how you can get your book out there and get started. If you want to have an idea after this, and knowing that I already missed the sales goal on here of not coming back and making my money back on this ad, you want to see how much money I've made versus spent in the 5 to 6 years that I have been self-publishing and putting my blood, sweat, and tears into my books. Not literal blood. I don't think there's any blood in my manuscripts. I basically type them, so it'd be kind of weird if there was some blood in it. Like that's like a plot for some other like 1980s horror film. The computer's like making your blood. Anyway, as I get distracted, take a look at this video over here, where I'm gonna kind of delve into it and give you the gritty numbers, the actual numbers of what it's been like for me. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found this helpful. Please let me know down in the comments below if you have gotten a BookBub ad or what other newsletters you really like. Help everybody out. Tell us what newsletters you like. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.